How's it, guys? I just wanted to give a quick review, stop in today and share my thoughts about the Samyang 24mm 2.8, which is this super tiny little lens. It is possibly, well, I'd imagine the smallest. It's got to be the smallest, definitely the lightest lens for the Sony full frame E-mount. I'm running this on an A7 III. So besides the size of it, I wanted to run over a couple of things. First off, I've heard a lot of comments and seen some videos where people talk about the fact that this has a plastic lens mount. It does not have a plastic lens mount. It has a metal lens mount, but opposed to being stainless steel, it is aluminium. It's cold as hell. It's like 1 degree here, and this is cold. Plastic is warm. You can feel it on your lip. So just to clear that misconception up, this is not a plastic lens mount. It is aluminium. I don't know if you can see it here. Not that it, I mean, it could look like painted plastic, but you can assure me it's not. I can assure you it's not, sorry. So the size of it, as you can see, it is like, this is the lens cap. It is pretty much 3 times the size of a lens cap. Incredible. It weighs just 93 grams. As I said before, I'm not certain, but I'm guessing it's the smallest FE lens there is for full frame. Obviously that is FE, but super tiny. I bought this for travel and for gimbal video work. I have a Sigma 70-200 2.8, but this is very heavy on the gimbal. It's a beautiful photography lens. It's very good for video as well, but this is something you can just chuck on the A7 III or even onto a one of the 6000 series and have a tiny little lens that you can almost, with a 6000 series, probably put it in your pocket when it's attached to the body, you know. It's really small. The lens hood, as you may have previously been aware of, is very flimsy and plastic, but it's also very small. Like the chances of you like breaking this hood or knocking it off because it's so small, it's actually sturdy enough for what it needs to be. I don't really think that's a problem. So, autofocus, of course, always the question with Samyang. I find it's very responsive, very good. Not really any different. I mean, it's not super fast when it transitions between a near and far subject. It's not like my Sigma where it just blinks. It's like a lens that's maybe 3 or 4 years old. We've become so accustomed to having insanely fast autofocus. And on a tele lens, this is really important. But on a wide angle lens, not so important to have such quick because the focus throw is obviously less. If you're focusing on a tree that's 3 meters away and then a background that is 100 meters away, there's very little difference in focal plane between those two, at 2.8 especially. Whereas a 70-200 2.8, if you're 3 meters from something and there's 100 meters behind you the next thing, you get a lot more background, you get a lot more separation here. So then you need, the focus has to travel further and it needs to work better. So for me, the focus is fine. In video, also fine. You see some test shots now. I have 0 complaints about the AF. I haven't tested it super extensively in low light situations. I don't tend to do a great deal of low light. Not a wedding photographer, not a wedding videographer. The sound from the autofocus, I hear nothing. I'm out in the forest, it's very quiet. My dog is, if you hear chewing and footsteps, it's my dog just sat here. She's walking around a little bit and I can hear nothing. In a totally silent, I must test it when I get home, in a completely silent room and see if I hear any clicking, but as of now, 0 autofocus noise. And anyway, everyone uses a Rode microphone. I don't really think this noise that people complain about, for me at least, is not at all important because I use external audio sources. External microphone, external audio clips and samples, or I engineer my own sounds. I don't ever use the microphone from the camera. So for me, it's not a problem, but as far as I can tell, it has absolutely nothing. So let's talk about the optical performance. It is, obviously not the best. It's 222 euros on Amazon at the moment. It's not performing amazingly. It's not bad. Again, it's kind of what you'd expect from maybe an APS-C lens 3 or 4 years ago from the cheaper end of lenses. again, we've been so accustomed to having perfect, super sharp images in corners, and this, yeah, it doesn't, but it's a trade-off for the size, the weight, and the cost. 93 grams. It's like, it's nothing. It's worth having just for the sake of having it. So we get very, very, very heavy vignetting. Between 3 and 3.5 stops, I'd say, on my tests. Posting pictures now. It does vignette very heavily, but it's so easily corrected in Lightroom that for me it's not really a problem. With any vignetting was a problem many, many years ago when we had film cameras and you couldn't correct it. Now you just click one button on Lightroom or Photoshop and in a blink the vignetting's gone, the distortion's corrected. So it does have it. Oh, here comes a Luftwaffe. Yeah, brilliant audio. I'm going to carry on. Hopefully that doesn't pick up too loud. Bokeh is really, really good. A 2.8, a 24, obviously you have to be very close to your subject to get a decent amount of bokeh. And there isn't tons because it is 24 2.8. It's not 24 1.4. But the bokeh that's there is very nice, very round, very soft. I'm not super anal about bokeh. Seriously, I come out in the forest to do this like nice and quietly, and there's a Eurofighter like doing loops over my head. So, bokeh good. At 2.8, it's very sharp in the middle, not so sharp in the corners, but for what I use it for video, plenty sharp enough. I think video is less sort of important from video sharpness than a picture, because the image is moving. You don't often get that direct comparison where you zoom into 100 and look in the corner and check it. F4.5, it's much, much better. I would not say it's a soft lens. I wouldn't say it's the sharpest lens. At F11, it's completely sharp across the board. So for landscape stuff, being 24 is quite useful for landscape. And I do a little bit of this with it when I travel. Flare, it does flare pretty badly. It's a very, very small little glass element at the front here, and maybe has something to do with it, I'm not sure, but the flare resistance is not good. But I don't mind a little bit flare, as long as you can control it, which this lens hood is not going to do because it is tiny. It's going to stop maybe, where is it? It's going to stop maybe, I don't know, 3 degrees of light hitting the front element. So it does flare. If you shoot a lot into the sun with it, things like this, you maybe have problems with it. For video, I enjoy a little bit of flare on videos. I think it adds a little bit to it. So again, not a problem, but it does flare, so be aware of that. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'm going to start reviewing loads more of my photography gear because I'm always out using it and I've always got my gear with me, and I'm like, hell, I'll just stick it on the tripod and talk a little bit about some stuff that I've bought recently and what my views are on it. You'll see some sample footage of what films with this, and I'm going to do a quick autofocus test now. So switched over to the 24 now. Excuse the lighting conditions if it's a little bit bright or dim. It's very cloudy and the sun coming in and out here in the forest. I have no 49mm ND, variable ND filter or any ND filter to use with this lens. I've had to put the shutter speed up a little bit because I want to keep it at 2.8 to show you how the bokeh is, how the background blur is, and of course it's better for the video autofocus test. So I'm going to turn around, excuse me, because it's. I hope it's still tracking me. So we're going to come closer and closer. Obviously, I have no clue if it's tracking me now or not. I hope it is, because I really like this lens. Now I'm going to do up and down. Hopefully that's working. Flaring's not too bad. When I open the aperture, I get a little bit flaring, but so it's controllable. Not the fastest autofocus, but working. Just a quick little test for autofocus and gimbal use. Obviously, this is not a gimbal, as you can see by the shaking. This is just a little tiny tripod screwed to the bottom of my camera. But I just wanted to test how well it would work as a little sort of, walking vlogging lens. Of course, Sony has the IBIS in body stabilization, which hopefully is correcting what I can see as a very, very shaky camera in front of me. Of course, you always got warp stabilizer on the computer as well on Premiere Pro, but to be honest, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, you can see when someone's used it and it looks crap. So I'm not a fan of using that. But I think this is doing a fairly good job. So guys, I just got back. I wanted to just sum up what I thought about the lens, my opinion, my thoughts, and I thought what better to record it on than the lens itself. So now you can see it in my slightly messy office and studio. This is the Samyang 24 2.8, wide open recording in this scenario. So to sum up, super lightweight little lens. I can't stop saying it, it's 93 grams. It's so light. Lightweight, compact, small, fairly well built, very good bokeh. Very surprisingly good autofocus. In pictures it's the same. Video is always where lenses struggle compared to autofocus, and the video autofocus is surprisingly good. I mean, I've used this lens a fair bit, but I haven't done such an obvious up and down test or walking to and from the lens itself, and I'm quite blown away by how well it performed, considering its price point as well. I think it's an awesome little lens. Check it out. Thanks for watching the review. If there's anything you'd like to know more or anything you think I've missed and want it to be covered again in the next video, please write in the comments down here, and subscribe and follow me for more videos like this and tutorials coming up soon as well.